we're running. Somebody will come in and tell me if we're not running. Welcome to this semi-impromptu gathering. We're going to talk about executive orders by county judges, and we're talking a little about the governor. And this is the first time I've ever done this, so I hope you'll forgive me if I'm not quite right with it. Sorry for the late call. So our agenda today is to talk about where some of these orders are. We're going to talk about the history of the Texas Government Code, 418-108. It is not the end-all and be-all, get out of any obligations you have clause. We're going to talk about what the governor can do, what the governor can't do, and we're going to talk about generally what a county judge can order. And then the few things that you're seeing popping up, what is an essential job, and then the two big questions that seems to be fairly obvious. Can a county judge close all churches? Just decide, I'm sorry, we have an emergency, we're going to close all churches. We're going to leave other things open, but we're going to close churches. And then can people just stop you and ask you for your papers? So this was something we're going along the way, and so I'm sorry that this is not going to be as much as I'd like, but we're going to do what we can. Current status of the various orders, and they are in process. Apparently, Tarrant County today is the only county that says that it can commandeer all your stuff. Everybody seems to think that liquor is essential and you should be able to get liquor anytime you want. No rules on that. On the other hand, if you're vaping, nobody considers that essential. Now, of course, people who vape often are trying to smoke. So if you want to stop lung cancer and what's healthy, or stop what's healthful, you would encourage people to vape instead of smoking cigarettes. But apparently, vaping stores are not essential, but liquor stores are. Child care. So if you ever had a child and went to a child care facility, even the very best child care facilities are going to really struggle, unless they've got little cages for all the children, they're going to really struggle to keep them from each other. I don't understand how anybody can justify having child care and grocery stores open and close anything. But that's what's being considered essential. We're going to talk about whether that's real or not in a minute. Travel. I was getting ready to create this column, just didn't get to it. You're seeing a lot of orders that say to stay in place, you can't travel. You're seeing people create basically hall passes for their employees. This is not a thing. You don't have to show your papers to people in this country to travel. You just don't have to. But we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And then church. Apparently, Travis County is allowing people to have church as long as it's fewer than 10 people. Everybody else is just required. You know, the country is founded on people wanting to worship the way they wanted to, but a county judge can just say, hey, there's a disease and it can kill at least a small percentage of us. Therefore, no churches, no matter what. No matter what precautions you had, no matter what you were going to do, nothing is good enough. We're going to allow grocery stores and child care, but no church services. I'm sorry, you have a newborn baby, you want to have a baptism, or if you want to gather for a morning prayer or a men's group for fewer than 10 people and you're all going to sit 100 feet from each other, sorry, you're closed no matter what. So that's interesting. So we're going to start first with what the governor can do. Some people are confusing the difference between making laws and suspending laws. So let's go to the actual law, if I can find it. And here's where we start getting the technical prowess starts to slide. I just had this up because I was looking for it. Who can do things? The governor can. The governor may use all available resources. And by the way, I'm going to tell you when there's something that I'm using that is not easily findable, and sometimes I'm going to use things that are something anybody can find. This is the statutes of the state, statutes.capitol.texas.gov. You just go online to your search engine of your choice and say Texas online statutes. This will put right up, and you can put in there the government code. This is the government code, and you can find this. This is not behind any magical wall. You can find these things. This is easy. So the governor can use all available resources of a state government. and the political subdivisions that are reasonably necessary to cope with the disaster. Okay, so now we have our first judgment call. The first couple of weeks of a disaster, and you think everybody's going to die. He can do a lot. The governor may commandeer any or use any private property if the governor finds it necessary to cope with the disaster, subject to the compensation requirements. He's going to wind up having to pay for it. The taxpayers will. So the governor may commandeer. Now, this section of the law, here I'll zip up to the top of it if I can. This is the government code, executive branch, emergency management. It's 418. All of these various court orders. Here's the one from Tarrant County. And I'm not picking on Glenn or any, of all the bunch, Glenn is among the somewhat more, well, he's not really. They're all like this, except for Collin County. So you have a Texas Government Code 418-108, and this is basically an archetype of the rest of them. They all kind of say this. We've got a code that's got an emergency. We determine extraordinary measures must be taken. I don't know what I did there. That's interesting. And so you got a local disaster. He's had this a couple of times. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay, so state of disaster is here declared. This executive order shall be promptly given publicity, and they all say that because the state law says that it has to do that. And then you have an emergency operations plan. Now this is different. This is not true of any of the other executive orders I've seen. The county is authorized to commandeer for or use any private property, temporarily acquire, lease, or other means. We don't know what the other means means. Sites required for temporary housing or emergency shelters. Subject to compensation requirements. So there is some compensation requirements. But any property. Okay, so let's look at 418-020. Right there. 418-020. That didn't work out, did it? There we go. The governor, look at that. The governor may enter into purchase, and it may do things, and the governor may assist a political subdivision. The governor may do that and require sites. The governor may do that. The governor may advance or lending funds. Does it say allocating funds made available by a public or private agency? Become a co-partner. So, do you see anything yet? Let's see, what was this? This was 020C. Under regulations prescribed by the governor may temporarily suspend or modify for a period of time, for about 2 months, any public health. Okay, he's suspending here or modifying. He's not making new law. Okay, there's no new law here. He's temporarily suspending or modifying. So instead of the Open Meetings Act, he may say, you got to make it be online. Instead of providing that you have to normally have a petition or to cause a charter amendment, he might say, well, you can do that online through email. He can allow things and modify things. He can't just make up whole law. And so this says that we haven't seen any delegation from the governor that says you may commandeer county judges, whatever you feel is appropriate. The governor has that. The county judge doesn't, but Tarrant County has decided for itself that it does have that. I am subject to learning something more if the governor has actually issued an order at the state level that says I'm authorizing the dukes of each one of my new fiefdoms to commandeer property under my authority because I have that authority. Might talk about that, but I haven't seen that. So if somebody wants to show that to me, I'm happy to listen. And I'm also trying to make sure that I can look at comments, but I'm not sure I know how to do this. So, do I see any comments? I'll make sure I respond to anybody who has a question. But I'm not sure how to do that. Anyway, so we're going to go with it. If somebody wants to ping directly, that's fine. So I don't know of any authority that says the county judges can decide for themselves that they can take stuff. And I want everybody to understand too, when you say private property, that doesn't tell me if it's real estate or private, personal property. Private property can be real estate, it can be not real estate. So we call that real property or personal property. This isn't limited. So apparently if they want to take your guns, the county says he's authorized to do that. He hasn't limited that at all. Now we're going to give everybody a break and say, yes, we're moving fast. And so maybe we've written some things that need some cleanup. I'm okay with that. I'm just bringing to the county's attention that you got an over-the-top, as far as I can tell, unjustified order. And this is the only county that's done that. What do we have? Nobody else is commandeering. Now, can the judge? Is any place here in this order? If you look at this, it gives the county judges the authority to do certain things. So let's find out what the county judge can do. County judge. Okay, now we are at 418. This is the big one. This is one they all talk about, right? 418. We go back to our 418. Any actions necessary to promote health, suppress disease, including quarantine, evacuation, regulating ingress, egress from a disaster area, controlling the movement of persons and occupancy of premises, pursuant to 418.108F and G of the Texas Government Code. Okay, let's look at that. 418.108, we're 108F and G. Let's look at the law. County judge may order the evacuation of all or part of the population from a stricken or threatened area under the jurisdiction and authority of the county judge or mayor, if the county judge or mayor considers the action necessary for the preservation of life. Okay, so they can order the evacuation of all or part of the population from a stricken or threatened area. You know, tornadoes, floods, things like that. And what else can they do? They control, G, they can control ingress to and egress from a disaster area under the jurisdiction and authority of the county judge or mayor and control the movement of persons and occupancy of premises in that area. And I have some of my friends going, see, right there, it says, you can control the movement of persons and occupation of premises in that area. So does that mean that he can control who goes into a vape shop, who goes into a liquor store, and these people have to close down? Well, I don't know. I've never seen that before. It doesn't seem to indicate that. It seems to me as though these two areas talk about you've got a flood and you've got to take people out or leave them in, and you're going to give people authority to do that. But we don't have to wonder about these things. Sometimes we do, but not always. And it just so happens, and you can look at, again, you can look these things up. We go down to the bottom of this section, and we can say, look, these laws, this section of the law, has been amended several times. It was amended in 2003. It was amended in 2005. And it's amended a couple of times since then. Now, I happen to have read ahead of the game, so I know where I'm going to go. Someone hit this right here. This is House Bill 3111F. And this was passed back in, I want to say 2005, the 79th regular session of the state legislature. And look at that. When you see legal documents like this, if it's underlined, it means it's added. If it's got a strike through, then naturally it's been stricken through. So these are three new sections, as it turns out, to 418.108, the government code. And it says, I can embiggen it, as they say, maybe. There we go. All right. The county judge can add this. So this was all added here. So that doesn't really tell us why yet. Well, maybe we can go find out why. What we do is we take H Bill 3111. I'm going to see if I can do this on the fly, which is all Texas Online Legislature. Okay, let's see if this will work. Remember, it's 3111. This is the 79th regular. And I'm only going to do this for a few seconds. As long as it goes fast and easy, we'll do it this way. This is that you can look at the documents that occurred or that were generated during that process, and you can find out what was going on. So we're going to go with 3111. And I'm just doing this because I want everybody to know how to do this. This is helpful. You should be able to know how to do this. There we go. The actual law, the bill. Nope, we're back there. That's not where we want to be. We're going to report text, bill analysis. Okay, there's bill analysis by the Research Center. So what's going on here? Here we are. This past year, several deadly and damaging hurricanes struck Florida. Governor Perry had to direct the Office of Homeland Security to evaluate hurricane. And so that's what the author's intent is. That's what was discussed when they were passing this. So 3111 gives the county judge or mayor the authority to order an evacuation to control ingress and egress from a disaster area. And look, it says this bill does not grant any additional rulemaking authority to a state officer. So that's pretty cool. What else can we do here? And so it goes by section analysis. And basically the same thing. I have us up in another place. If I can pull it up. There we go. This is what it looks like when you just print it out. So the key recommendation by the Office of Homeland Security says to clarify local officials' authority with regard to evacuation mandates. So this law and this change in the law is desired to tell you, to let the local authorities tell you that, okay, the tornado is gone, we've cleared out this subdivision, you can go back to your home. Or everybody get out, there's a flood coming. It is not, now of course, what are they thinking about? The traditional problem with laws of this nature is that everybody's always, every general's fighting the last war. So they're thinking about flooding here. So I have some friends that say, that's the kind of thing that we're going to allow the executive to do on the fly if he needs to do that in the short term. Okay, I can go with that for a few minutes. I'll go with that. I'll simply say we're going to turn our head and we're going to allow that to happen for a few minutes while we all figure out what's going on. But what we can't do is we can't just ignore the law. There's nothing here that says, this is designed to handle an area, a threatened area, right? Again, it's ingress and egress to a disaster area, not ingress and egress to a store. It's not to say we're going to close down all the shopping malls, but feel free to go to Target or Walmart because those are completely different things, because they're not. And so if somebody wants to say that that you're going to allow the executive to make a reasonable determination of this type and to control the occupancy of premises, then let's be reasonable. Let's have the county judge say, look, for the time being, we're going to ask that everybody decrease your premises. You have a certificate of occupancy. It's based on a certain number of people being in your per square footage of your facility. We're going to require you to half that, or quarter that, or tenth that. But to say liquor stores, yes, child care, yes, shopping malls, no. Well, now you're getting into lawmaking. You're taking away people's permits to operate, and you're letting other people have it. You're saying dentists, I'm sorry, Mr. Dentist, you can't operate unless it's a national emergency. You can't work on the obvious cavity that needs removing unless you call it, unless you lie and say it's an emergency. You have to wait until it turns into a root canal. Then it's an emergency. That's beyond. I think that's beyond the pale, and I think that anybody who wants to challenge that can challenge it. Now, does this mean that somebody who has a bar can say, I want to have my bar and my dancing club open in normal conditions? I'm not going there. I'm not saying we have to go that far. But I am saying that this idea that a county judge has the carte blanche power to go through and say, as Clay Jenkins has done, Clay tweeted out yesterday, vape shops are not essential. Let me tell you something. If your job provides grocery money to buy groceries and bring it to your house, then it is essential to your house. And I defy anybody to tell me that that's not essential. That is beyond the pale. Every job is essential to the household that relies on it. So this idea of somebody saying somebody's job is essential, somebody else's job is not essential, is mind-boggling to me that three people would accept that. What else do we need to talk about? We need to talk about what an essential job. Oh, can a county judge close all churches? Do you see anything in here that says you can? No. What I didn't do, let's see if I can do this on the fly. Sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't. We're going to go. This is the act. Oh, I was looking for that. Let's see if I can go. I doubt I'm going to be able to do this. We have in this state and many other states a law that protects churches. And I'm not going to be able to pull it up. RFRA Texas, and you can look at what's required, unless it happens to work faster. It was going slow earlier. And what this law says is that you don't get to make decisions on what a church does unless you are, I'm not going to be able to find it, unless you are allowing it to do the things it wants to do, and it's under strict scrutiny, basically. You have to allow the least restrictive means for that church to do business if you're going to do it at all. And it allows people who are not allowed to worship in the way that they would normally to the rule that's being changed, and if it's not reasonable or it's not the least restrictive manner of doing business that the government could require, then you can sue the government. Now, I have clients who have paid me today to file a lawsuit to stop the counties from interfering in their worship. And what we're going to do in the next couple of days is we're going to send a number of letters to a number of counties that will say, back off, you need to change your order in some way that is more reasonable. If you are going to allow grocery stores, liquor stores, Walmarts, Targets, and all manner of organizations to operate normally, then you can't just close down all church services. That's just beyond the pale. So, but we're not doing that today. It's only been a couple of weeks. We're not trying to be unreasonable, and I'm assuming that sanity will reign soon. Surely somebody in these counties will tell them, look, you can't do this. You can't just shut down all churches. That's wrong. Yeah. Churches, and I've talked to a couple of pastors about this thing and said, how are you going to plan on doing this? And sometimes the answer is we're going to have every other pew, families sit together because they're already together. Everybody else has to maintain distance. Some of them are saying, well, we don't have that kind of room, so we're going to go to multiple services. We're still going to take care of people. But you're going to tell a family of 6 that they can't gather and have a baptism? Really? No matter what else you do. I think that RFRA is going to come into play, and it's going to tell these counties that they can't do that. I want to be able to answer questions. Can a county judge stop all travel? I don't see anything in the government code that says that they can just stop all travel. I don't see that. And I'll get on my soapbox just for a moment, and everybody's going to go, oh, no, that's not the soapbox. We have this thing called the Ninth Amendment. And the Ninth Amendment says that just because we haven't listed these rights in the first 8 amendments of our Constitution does not mean you don't have other rights. And you see this pop up every once in a while. And the right to travel has been in there. The right to homeschool. The right to marry somebody that has a different color than you. You have a right to do that. But it's not listed in the first 8. Now, the Supreme Court doesn't ever talk about the Ninth Amendment as a reason for why they decided what they decided. But that's the reality. Yeah, back when we were putting our country together, the Ninth Amendment said just because we've listed rights in the first 8 amendments does not mean that you don't have other rights. You have unenumerated rights because we cannot list all of the rights that you have. And we also have the 10th Amendment that says, hey, if we haven't given you the power, you don't have it. And guess what? There's no power here. Now that's the federal Constitution. This is the Texas Constitution we've been looking at. And if I had the time and I'd planned better, we could have gone over the Texas Constitution. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Again, I will do this because this is worth doing. If you want to pass a law in this state, Texas Constitution Article 4, Section 8. Let's look if we can find that real quick. I know you can play along with me if you want. Who can beat me? Constitution. That is the 5th article, and we'll go back up one. There's the Executive Department. What we're going to find out is that the governor can't make laws, but the governor can call the state legislature, and find some reasons why he can follow. He can go, and what he can do. He can convene the legislature on extraordinary occasions. That's, every 2 years our legislature meets. But if there's a special occasion that requires it, the governor can convene a special session. And usually that's what you find out about it during the summers. So the governor may, on extraordinary occasions, convene the legislature in a different place or wherever it works. Now, what's interesting here is we actually have, as listed, the case of prevalence of disease threat as a reason to convene the legislature. If the governor doesn't think he has the power to do what he wants to do, or he wants to give power that he normally can't delegate, the governor cannot delegate power beyond a certain way. I mean, there are limits. Even when the legislature says he can. We have a constitution that says otherwise. So he could call the legislature up and he can get whatever powers he wants to do subject to the federal constitution. That hasn't happened. So the governor does not make new law. And if he wants to make new law, he calls the legislature and they go do that. That's what they do. So that is the listing of all the things that I knew I wanted to talk about, and I'm sorry that I don't have, I'm not seeing questions. Oh, I would. Their good news today. The Attorney General said that and I didn't have this on my list of things to talk about. Gun stores. I was going to have on the list here. Apparently, in some places, gun stores are essential. Some are not. You want to shut down a gun store? It's an interesting question. Second Amendment says that we have the right to bear arms. Does the government have the right to stop you from buying the guns or the rounds or the target? Can the government do everything but prevent you from bearing arms? And the answer is no. But it's nice to see the Attorney General come out and be on the right side on that. If there are any questions, you can ping me directly. And I'm going to give about 2 minutes to this, and then I'm going to go ahead and close up shop. If you have any questions for me, feel free to holler.
I can see them right here.
I'm getting questions?
Well, it'll update in a second.
It'll update. Okay.
Maybe that'll work.
I didn't see questions. Okay, so this non-essential stuff I hear is all BS. I shouldn't have to fear my ladies out to clean my customers. This is one of those things that it's easier just to go along, to get along, and so people are doing that. People are writing the hall passes, and I've had people say, "What do I need to give a hall pass to my employees?" It's easier just to do it, and I would just. I'd love to say, if you've got a bucket of money and you want me to fight for you and you want to ask for that fight, I can do that. But if I were as I am a small business, and I would just give them a note, just because they're going to feel more comfortable and you're going to feel more comfortable. And I've heard other people talk about, well, cops are stopping me, stopping people, and they're harassing them with their papers. Where are your papers? I've heard other people say, show me the citation or it didn't happen. Generally speaking, whenever we look closely at these stories, what we find out is that cops are smart, and if they want to pull you over for going 3 miles over the posted speed and then ask you for your papers, did they stop you because they wanted to check your papers, or did they stop you from speeding? Did they give you a citation for not having your papers? No, but they asked you questions and made you uncomfortable. Is that actionable? No, because in this country we've decided that cops have immunity and they can do pretty much whatever they want. And I know that's strange to hear from a strong conservative, but that's reality. So not necessarily I would pick, but that's where we are. Now, there's a question about whether or not we should or should not comply. This is not a question about whether or not this virus is a hoax or whether it's going to kill 100,000 people or 5 million people. That is not what this is about. And while I'm on this question, here's rant number 2. It's included with your free ticket. Um, and just hang with me for a minute. The Old Testament had a list of rules, 10 do's and don'ts. The New Testament has 2 rules that clarifies it, and it's much sterner. And the beauty of the New Testament rules are that you're obligated to think about what you're doing, the real impact. If you require a set of rules to behave, then you're going to mess up. But if at the very beginning of this thing, if the government had said, look, don't touch people, don't touch things that other people have touched, then you would have seen people recognize, oh, gas pumps I shouldn't touch. It took a few days for the gas pumps to show up on the list of do's and don'ts. So the question I saw today, what are you guys sterilizing your Amazon packages? I'm not here to give you legal or medical advice. I'm really not even here to give you legal advice unless you're paying me. So there's that caveat, weasel word. But you have to get away from this list of do's and don'ts and get into the idea of, I want this thing to go away as fast as possible. I'm not going to touch things other people have touched. I'm not going to go out unless it's necessary. But it doesn't mean that you can't do anything. It doesn't mean that you have to impoverish your household or close your business completely. So that's kind of where I am on that. And for all I know, that the thing is going to mutate and we're all going to be walking dead in 3 months. I don't know that. Or it may be we find a magic elixir of common things that get together and they give you an inoculation. I don't know that either. But I do know that it's not smart to do stupid things. I wouldn't be going to spring break and rubbing bodies with other people in a big dance. I saw a good meme not too long ago that said, hey, we're going to have a march against the coronavirus. Everybody come. That's kind of funny, but no, we're not doing things like that. Don't do things like that. This is serious. So, what else can I tell you? Be smart. Do the things you should do, but recognize that you still have this liberty thing going on. Did I miss any questions? That's it. So, unless I'm go to the top. I was going to say, if you are operating a church and you want to be part of the movement to push this thing back, if you operate a vape shop, if you operate a gun store, if you operate a dentist office, we understand in the emergency room charity hospitals that we have in this country that you have, if a woman is pregnant and she's having a baby, that's an emergency. And so we also understand that it's stupid to say that we're only going to see that woman for the first time when she's actually having birth. So our safety net hospitals will allow and provide for prenatal care. I see that as smart. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. But by the same token, to tell a dentist, no, that cavity can just continue to proceed until you need a full root canal. So wait till it's an emergency before you talk to them. Whatever happened to an ounce of prevention with a pound of cure? So don't do that. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We may do another one of these. What's that?
You have more questions?
Thank you. If you have more questions, feel free to let me know privately. If you want to give to the cause, you can go to noradlaw.com and there's a pay now, and you can send us some money for this. I've got like 3 churches and a bunch of small businesses. None of them are well heeled, so to speak. So we appreciate your paying attention. And what you can do, that's what I forgot. And then we really will be done. What you can do, you can call your county judge and express outrage. You can start voting in the less exciting races like county judge and city council. You can contact your commissioners. Everybody here, most people here, have a county commissioner who never hears from you. They work, it's a full-time job, it's a great gig, nobody knows what they do. Call your county commissioner and say it's beyond the pale, open up your churches, and let us do our business, and let's be reasonable. Support legal, reasonable action. Nobody wants to sue the county because they did something minor, right? We want to do things that are reasonable. So do reasonable things. Don't get too upset about that. Let us know if you want to be a plaintiff, and if you have any ideas. If you're an attorney and you want to be part of this, let me know. and we will talk to you another time. Thanks and good day. If I can do this now.